Right, we're going to begin our tutorial today to making a little felted robin. You're going to need 3 colours for this project. I'm using here this lovely dark brown and this really nice brightly coloured red. And then I'm going for a mix of white and grey here, just to give a little bit of a natural grey feel to it. And we're going to start with our brown. Now all these wools are carded batting, so they're really easy to felt and to work with. So I'm going to take some of this off because I'm making quite a small robin. I'm just going to pull that away. And I'm going to make this into a ball shape. So I'm just going to roughly stuff it into my hands. And what I like to do is try and go for one smooth side there, and then I'm holding the other side there, a bit like a parcel. Then I'm going to begin stabbing on my mat by holding that together. And I'm using one of my larger needles to start. So this is one of my green needles. If you're using your own needles, this is a size 32. So I'm just doing some short stabs on the top there, just to felt those bits together. I'm not going all the way through because that would flatten the shape that I'm going for. So I'm just stabbing about 1 centimetre or just over down to felt those parts in, and now that's held together nicely. I'm just going to felt all over to give it a ball shape. This will also bring down the size and the density of the shape I'm going for, and we can start to work it. Once that's firm and made into a ball shape, we can start to work and build on that. So I'll just speed this part up. So you just want to make sure when you're felting all the way around that you pull it off your mat from time to time and keep moving it on the surface of your mat, making sure it doesn't stick to the mat itself. And I'm not stabbing all the way through, I'm just stabbing maybe 1 centimetre or just over more into the structure and just constantly turning it so it becomes smaller and denser as I felt. Right, so now I feel I've finished felting my ball and it's really nice and firm. As you can see, it's come a lot down in size as well. But because it's nice and firm, it becomes a lot easier to then build on and work on while we're adding colours and adding little bits here and there. So now we've got the bulk of it done, we're going to work on its head now. So what we're going to do is take off a little bit more of that brown. And I'm just going to push that together, again trying to find a part that's smooth, and then I'm just sort of bundling the rest together into a little parcel. I'm going to felt this into a smaller ball, which we're then going to attach, and this will be the head and the body together. So just using your mat, and again either a large or a medium needle, just going through the top there to connect those fibres together that I was holding. That begins already to felt the fibres into that ball structure. So just a few light taps, and that's already them holding in. So I'm just going to do as I did before and felt this down into a much firmer and smaller ball, so then I can attach it onto the body. So I'll speed this part up. Also, just to add, the stabs that I'm doing here are very, very short now because I don't want to end up with anything flat or stuck to my mat, so I don't want to felt right through and then into the mat. I'm just going to do short taps rather than stabbing hard all the way through, and this will work the wool nicely into that rounded ball shape I'm looking for. So now I feel like I've finished that one there. I'm actually just going to attach that onto the larger ball there. So I'm going to do this by holding it down and kind of squashing it in to the larger ball. Then I'm going to use a medium-sized needle, which is the pink needle if you're using my needles, or a gauge 36. And I'm just going to start tapping through rather than stabbing, because I just want to describe how I'm doing this, which is rather gently rather than stabbing violently all the way through. But what I'm doing is going through the bottom of that ball where the neck would be, and then felting the fibres there into the larger ball. So I am going through the bottom of that ball there to attach it, but I'm doing so rather gently at the same time. I'm using my medium needle because this is slightly thinner than the large, so it's a little easier to go through the fibres there to connect them together. So just turning round as I go. Now we've got that firmly attached on. You should be able to pull that and it shouldn't come off. Both of these should be nice and firm. And now I'm just going to take a little bit more of that brown batting and I'm going to cover over. Rather than having the head jutting out like so, I'm going to use that structure there and then just cover this part over the smaller ball, making that come nice and gradually around down over that neck area and onto the body. So it's just being held down gently at the moment, and then I'm very gently just attaching those fibres over. You can use either your small or your medium needle here, but I'm being really nice and gentle because I want that to come smoothly over there. I don't want big stab marks. I don't want it to come back in here. You can add more and just build on that area if you need to make sure you don't have, you want the neck to be a gradual neck. You don't want it coming in and then back out like a little snowman head. So I'm just going to speed this part up, and all I'm doing is just tapping gently all over to connect those fibres down. If you need to add any more, just continue to do that until you feel like you've got a nice smooth gradual separation between the two. I'm going to now move down to a smaller needle just to work in that last bit of batting around the neck area there. To work on the surface a little bit using that really fine red needle or a size 38 or even smaller. I'm just giving it a really nice little gentle tapping all over the surface. This will smooth out the texture on the wool there and just give it a really nice finished look. I'm not going to overwork it because we're still adding. So the next point we need to add is the tail. So again, I'm going to go back to the brown here and just take some off. I don't want a big tail this size. Even if I did fold that up into a tail, it would be far too thick. So I'm just going to half that. You're better off working in something small and then building up over it to make it large rather than ending up with a really large head or a really large tail. So always go smaller if in doubt. So I've just got a good pinch here to go with what looks like at the moment a little bit of a brown pear. So I'll pop my pear on the table and I'm just going to put the two ends, which are the fluffy ends where the fibres broke off, together like this. So we've got a nice fold there. And pop that on my mat. And then I'm going to have it go long ways along here. This will be the end of my tail. So I want to fold in these fluffy ends here over onto each other. So this part here will then be felted. These fluffy ends I don't mind because that's going to be attached to the body, so that can blend in nicely. So just holding that down on my mat, either using my medium or my small, this is my small needle, to attach the fibres, and really just quite gently felting them together. This will, however, attach itself to the fibres of my mat, so I don't want to go and felt it too much before then taking it off gently and then just moving it on the surface of my mat. I've actually turned it over here. I'm just going to go over on the other side now. And then I'm going to peel it off and do this side once more. Now I've got a nicely felted kind of rectangular shape but with rounded corners. I'm just going to check for size and see how this looks. The fluffy side would be attached to the back of the robin. So when you're looking at it, you're looking at the big sort of bulgy bit coming down where the tummy is, and the feet would be coming in here. This would be the head and the beak would be around about here. So you're placing your tail on like so, and that's not a bad size. If you find it's too fat, you can either use your scissors to trim it or just very gently go in at the side there, and this will felt the tail a little thinner if it needs done. You could also felt a couple of lines in there just for extra texture. Bring the camera in a bit. So what I'm going to do is maybe do 2 lines down here to suggest feathers coming down into the tail. So I'm going to go from the end, doing little stabs along the tail this way, and then I'm going to go back along that same line, back and forth a few times, and that will make a little groove in that tail, just to suggest a little bit of added detail. And I'm going to do one here as well. If you tried this and it didn't work out for you and you still have some brown batting, you can just then cover it up and try again if you want to. Or you can just leave the tail as it was. Just going to felt in any extra bits there. You could even felt in at the end of the tail just to bring in the edges where that groove is there. So we've got this sort of detail going on. Now I'm going to attach it onto my robin at this angle here. So fluffy ends onto the back. He's now down on his face on the mat there, and I'll be careful of my fingers and thumb here as I'm holding it on, and just very gently tapping through, starting at the end bits and then going through, just checking that's okay. Now I'm felting it a little bit harder through the tail so it attaches nicely onto the body. You can go through under the tail as well. All you need to do is just bend that tail back a little bit and then felt through that bend of the tail you've just made and into the body. It just gives it a little bit of extra security. There we go. I'm just smoothing over the texture with some little stabs at this point. So we've got our head on and our tail. Next we're going to add a little bit of the grey, so I don't need much of this. This is just going to go on here under the tail, just a little bit there, and then kind of blend in to under the robin, and then we're going to blend that into the red the robin's redbreast. So popping the thicker end just under the tail there, I'm just going to gently felt that in. And that's that attached quite quickly. I'm using my small needle here, my red needle. Now I'm just going through the rest of the fibres to attach that on. Always better with less to begin with, and you can always add more. So I'm just going to add on another small layer there. So areas of that white grey sort of blending out towards the side there, which is what I want. You can always blend it further by taking a little bit of your brown and then a little bit of your other colour to mix. And then at this point you can blend the two together by just breaking the fibres apart and then stacking them on top of each other, breaking them apart and then stacking them again. So just keep doing this a few times and this will give you a nice blend of the two colours together. I've got quite a lot there, so I'm going to pull that in half and use it just on either side of here just to blend that slightly more so it's a bit more of a natural blend into the brown rather than a sudden jump from the light to the dark. So that's his bum area done. And now on to the red. So we've got this lovely bright coloured red with carded batting here. I'm just going to start with a pinch. I'm going to work up this way with the thinner fibres blending into that grey there. Very gently tapping that through to begin connecting it, and that will start to blend as well with that light and the brown. And then the thicker wool is then making its way up the neck of the bird, and it will come up and over its face. And a little bit more here. You can always just add a bit at a time by holding on with your thumb and then breaking off the excess that way. That's a nice sort of way to work to blend in colours so you're not working with big clumps. And that will kind of hold itself to the point where you can just then gently tap that in. Now we're just going to cover up some of that face with a bit more red. If you find you've still got a bit of a dip coming here, which you don't really want, you can then also fill it up with the red at this point. Just folding it over there just to fill in the gap a little bit. Taking off any bits that are straying a bit too far for my liking. Then I'm going around my thumb where it's holding that wool. A few taps and it will hold. I'm just smoothing over that area. I'm going to add a little bit more on this side. It's slightly more sparse than the other. Gentle taps. Now I'm just smoothing over the texture with some small taps with my small needle. Getting that looking nice, neatly felted. So now we've got that lovely bright red felted nicely all over. The last thing we're going to make is a couple of wings with the felt. So with what I have left here, just going to break that in half to make my two wings. Starting with this one, just going to felt that over to make a nice fold. Just folding in the ends there as well. I want it to be quite a nice thick fold, so I'm just going to felt it over one more time because I want that fold to be really nicely defined So holding that fold down on my mat, I'm just going through. I'm using my small red needle. Just a few gentle stabs through to hold it. Don't want it felting too much to my mat. So I've turned it over, and that fuzzy side I'm going to felt down, but first I'm going to attach it to my robin. So I'm just lining it up with just under where the line of where the tail is. So round about here, that's where the fold's going. So I'm holding that down with my red needle. I'm starting to just push through just to let it hold on slightly, and there we've got it, and we can start to work that in, felting down the fuzzy bits at the top and then felting through that wing area at the bottom. Making sure to keep that nice fold nice and defined. So I'm going through the fold, or just under the fold there, and then into the body of the robin. I'm now just going to felt a little line over the top of where that wing would be. So I've got a nice defined groove there, and this will suggest the top of the wing. Everywhere else I'm doing smaller stabs, just to felt it neatly down. Bit larger stabs through the area to make the groove, and then you've got this part here. And then you can smooth that down with some smaller stabs, and if you want to do a little bit of detail, you could also put a little bit of a groove along the wing as well. So here, just like the tail, I've made 2 little grooves coming along to the end to suggest feathers. I'm using my small needle to do this. Just going back over it all now. Short stabs where I want the surface to become neater. Bigger stabs into where the grooves are. And try and keep the stabs close together to get that nice groove in line. And go also around the wing again to redefine that area, and back along the grooves. And that's one side, so I'm just going to repeat that process for the other side. When you're putting on your second wing, just make sure you're lining it up with that first one that you put in, and you don't have one down here and one up there. So I'm just looking at it face on, with that tail right in the middle, and getting it lined up nicely with that side before committing to where it's going. Gently stabbing at the top just to start to connect it on, and through the wing into the body again with my small needle. I'm just repeating what I'm doing on this side. Right, and that's us got our wings on. A little bit of detail on the side as well. I feel like I need just a tiny little bit of blending up here. So again, I'm just going to mix my colours. I'm taking a little bit of that red and the brown in equal amounts. And then begin to break those fibres and blend them, stack them, break them. To blend those 2 colours nicely together. I'm just going to pop that blend right there. Holding that on through tapping with my small needle. Move the fibres around where you think they could go. It does tend to go over their face, or mainly just under their beak sometimes right over the face. This is something that can be changed or adjusted once we've got the beak and the eyes on, just to make it look great. There we go, nicely blended. So I'm going to stop there because we are going to move on to putting in some eyes and a beak. So now to work on the little beak, I'm going to show you a little trick and where I cheat a little bit. Here I have a toothpick. It's just a regular toothpick made of wood, and sharp pair of scissors, or here I have some wire cutters handy, so I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to just keep a little bit of a point there and cut down around about 1.5 centimeters, something like that. There we go. At this point you can colour in your beak and just stick it in that way. It's got a black Sharpie here, so very quick and easy fix to doing a beak. And to make the hole for the beak to go in, I'm going to use my large needle, the green one, and I'm going to make the hole with the needle, and you can place the needle and just check and see if that's looking right before you go and commit to making any holes for the beak. So it's going right bang in the middle there where the face is. So looking at the side, the beak's going to come out here, looking this way rather than down there. Otherwise that would be it looking down. Up here would have it looking up, so I'm going to go right in the middle there. It's almost in line with the back there, and it's right in the middle of the face looking at the front there. So I'm going to push that needle in a little bit. In fact, I'm going to go down to my medium, because what I don't want happening is a big pucker going in towards where the beak is. I just want to make a little hole. So I'm using my medium, or even go with your small if you need to. And I have that in, and I'm going in and out rather than pulling it all the way out. I'm just making the hole by going around in a circle. And I'm not going very deep in there either. But I just want to make sure that goes in. So I'm going to have a shot. You might have a knitting needle or something that might help you get that in there. I'm just going to push the blunt end into where the face of the robin will be. Now I don't want that falling out, so if you have glue handy, I do suggest sticking on a little bit of glue. I always have some Bostik all-purpose, which I find really, it's messy, but it's very quick drying. I always have my lid handy as well, so I'm just going to pop a little bit on the blunt end there now that we've made the hole, and that will dry very quickly. So tiny little blob. I'm going to stick that back in the hole where we've already tried to insert it. Push that in a little bit further, and that should stick nicely in there, in the way of our beak. I do find there's a little bit of puckering there, so what I'm going to do is just fix that with a tiny bit of the red, or if it's brown where you have it, then use a little bit of your brown, not much. I'm going to make a little circle there, patch. Then I'm going to pop that over the beak. So the beak's going all the way through, and with my small needle, the red one, so he's sitting on his butt at the moment on the pad there, I'm just going to very gently tap on the outside of that circle I've made to connect it first. Then I'm going to come in towards the beak there, and that will take that part where the wool was coming in back out to where it should be. Even going to take off these excess bits of fluff at the outside of the circle. I'm just going to push them in towards the beak and down a bit. And if you need to do another little blend out of the red and the brown, then just do another little patch where you're blending the two colours together. You might need to go over the structure a little bit just to make sure that's nice and rounded. I'm just going to blend that out with a little bit more of the red. There we are, we've got our beak on. And lastly, we're going to have some eyes. So I'm using here a pair of black glass eyes because they sometimes come in slightly different sizes. I'm just making sure to have two that are the right size. And these come, they're glass eyes and they come on little stems, so they're perfect for needle felting. And first I'm going to do is use a couple of needles just to pinpoint where I might want the eyes. So looking at the beak at the front there, I'm moving them about, at the moment, just to check, about 1 centimetre on either side and just above where the beak is. And having a look on each side of that. You could place them a bit more round to the side. That might look a bit more natural, but just having a play. You can always use a picture of a real robin for reference, where you think that might go. So I might move them in more slightly towards the beak. I'm not particularly going for a completely realistic look here. I'm going for more of a little cartoon cutie type bird. So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is just do some short little stabs in the shape of the circle and having another little look there. Same with this side where I've had my needle. Now I can really have a look and see how that looks to me, which I think looks great. So I'm going to go in a little bit deeper now. What I'm going to do is make an eye socket using my medium needle and doing very short stabs, making a circle around about the size of the eye that's going to go in there, and the same on the other side. So now we have the socket for the eyes. I'm going to now make a hole for the stem, so right in the middle of that eye socket. I'm going to push the needle right through, being careful of your fingers on the other side. In and out, and that will make a hole for the stem to go in. And it should fit in nicely. Then you just need to push it in. And the same on this side. Right in the middle. Find the center of that eye socket, pushing needle right through, no fingers underneath. I just found I felt that going through the first time. Now I put the stem in, push that through. Pushing those eyes in, making sure they're centered okay. And if you want to glue those eyes in as well, that's another way just to extra secure them, which I'm going to do. Now I have them in the right place and I'm happy with them. I'm going to pull them back out, keeping an eye where that stem's going. A little bit of glue, not too much, and very quickly in it goes. That's one. Other side. It done there, so you can always re-squash the shape of the head because you've been playing with the eyes and the beak there. You might find your head is squashed in a certain way, so you can just re-squash it, go over it and re-smooth it with your needles. Redefine any areas that you need to, and making them look really sweet. So there's our little robin who's going to be attached to small wreath. This is my wreath here, and I'm going to be attaching him to make a nice winter Christmas wreath, and I'll show you how to do that next. So I have some really thin brown florist wire here, which works, I find, really well at attaching felted things onto wreaths. I'm just going to cut off with my wire cutters around about 12 inches roughly, just enough for me to play with. And what I'm going to do is look at where I want to attach my robin first. So he's probably going to sit on the bottom of that big rounded belly right there. So I'm going to use, you can either have a knitting needle or even a large felting needle, but I've got this all here, which I'm going to then push through to make a wee hole that goes through his belly. And I'm going to see if my wire goes through as it is. If not, then a large needle or a dull needle could work. That went through no problem. So there he is. I'm going to pop him right in the middle of that wire and sit him where I like him to be on the wreath. And I've got the wires coming on either side, so I'm just going to start wrapping that around the bottom there. That's one. I'm going to take the other wire, wrap that around the bottom, and that's two. Now I'm just going to make sure to pull them quite tightly. And then at the bottom, once that's nice and tight, I'm going to twist these wires together. That should make one nice wire. And then I can just continue wrapping that around, or you can chop off the excess. And if you need to do that again, you can just then go ahead and make another hole through the robin there, and it should fix nicely. I might want to do that just so it's extra secure, I think. Go for one right at the bottom there. There we go. And to finish that off, just going to make a few green leaves. So he's got some Christmas wreath leaves or some holly, whatever you think might go around him. Right guys, I'm going to show you how to do some leaves. However, I'm going to show you a little bit of a cheat. You could take some nice carded batting and then just flatten that onto your mat, and then use your needle to just mark out a leaf shape by folding in the edges and then folding that into a leaf shape. Easy peasy, just start like that and then just keep going. Or if you want something of a bit more of a complex shape, for example a holly, that could take a while to do. So I'm going to show you another way to do it, which is to use some flat felt. So I know it's a little bit of a cheat, but it looks so good. Here I've got some really good quality, different shades of green here. Lots of different shades of green. Now this is a good quality flat felt. It's not the usual cheap stuff you get from the craft stores. This has got high wool content, so it's a lot easier to work with. It's a lot nicer to work with. It's easier to cut if you've got nice shape, nice sharp scissors. So I'm just going to start here by just repurposing a little bit that I have here. Don't want to waste any because this is slightly more expensive than the other stuff. So here we go. Nice bit of felt, and I'm just going to draw this holly shape onto it. Again, I'm just using my Sharpie here. So you can see the shape. It sort of starts out like a Christmas tree. It comes down from the top, comes into a point, and then round and into another point that's a little bit further out, and then round and into another point that's yet a little bit more further out. And instead of coming across as if you were to do that cartoon Christmas tree illustration, you come down into a point where the stem of the leaf would be. So I'm going to draw this by starting here at the top with my marker, and I'm just going to draw two curves coming down into a point, and then another curve coming to more of an outer point, and then another one coming slightly more outer, and then in to where the middle would be here. So I'm going to try and get the points sorted on the other side first. Now I'm going to draw in those curves, and if you do it wrong, it doesn't matter. You could always flip over the other side, but you're going to be cutting it anyway. So there we go. I'm actually going to draw my line down the middle as well, and I'm going to draw some indicator lines coming from the middle out to where those points are. I'm not going to go all the way to the top, but I'm just going to suggest where they're going like that. Do one more bottom there, and using some nice sharp scissors, just going to cut that out. So I'm going to go down, use my medium-sized needle here or a small needle and just hold that down because I want to actually felt along these lines a little bit. This is going to give a little bit of more of a natural shape to the leaf. So I'm going to go over all those lines. I might also try with my smaller needle. Yeah, so I'm doing lots of little stabs through, and it will attach to the mat, so I need to take it off the mat every now and again so it doesn't stick too hard to the mat. And it's going to make a little bit of a groove along that line. And I'm going to go along the other lines as well. I'll speed this part up. So now I've felted over those lines. It gives the leaf a nice little bit of definition there that it didn't have before, slightly more natural look. So I like to work in threes. So I've done another 2 of these in different sizes. First I did a larger one and I did a smaller one. So this here is a medium one. I'm going to see how this looks on my wreath just before I decide to felt them together, because you can just then stack them on top of each other and felt through. I'm probably going to pop this right here beneath the robin there. Like that looks good. And I'm just going to put the 3 stalks where the stalks will be together, and then just using my small needle here, just felting through all 3 of them so that they actually stick together. Now this could either be hot glued or Bostik glued onto the wreath, but I like to make it a little bit extra secure. So again, I'm going to use that florist wire and just thread that through. You can do that by just making a little hole with a needle or whatever you have handy. Here's my awl. Very easy to make a hole in it because it's a nice natural flat felt. So push that through, round about in the middle of the wire there. So I'm just going to twist it a couple of times just to secure that wire on. Now I can fix it to my wreath. So the wire is here behind the leaves and I've splayed them to either side. I'm going to pop that so the wire goes under my robin here, under his tail. It's coming down this side, and then I've got one coming down this side as well. So pushing that where I want it to go, pulling it tight, and then I'm going to twist the wires at the bottom together a few times. And that should be it nicely fixed on. Just going to take that excess wire and put it wherever. That will do. And I've got a nice little bit of holly there. And we can make berries on it as well. So you can either make the red or the white. I think I'll make some nice white berries to go with it. We'll do that bit next. Okay, so I've actually just turned my mat over there and taking some cord wool actually, because it's white enough for me, for my liking. I'm just folding that around this way first, just a very small amount. Then I'm going to fold in the ends this way, sort of to make a square. And then I'm going to just bunch it together to make a small parcel. Putting that onto my mat. Clean a bit here. I'm going to push through. I try my medium needle. I'm going to push through the fibres where I'm holding them, obviously being very careful of my finger and thumb, and into the mat. That will then hold onto the fibres of the mat. Then I can start to felt in down. I can push these fibres over this way a little bit to bring them in, because I'm making a small ball shape. I don't want to stab too much all the way through, because firstly it will fix to the mat, secondly you'll just end up with a flat berry. So I'm going to take that off, popping it on its side now so don't end up too flat. I'm going to come in this way, and at the top I'm just doing small stabs so as not to flatten it, even like as much as ½ a centimetre in for the length of the stabs that I'm doing, because it's such a small little berry I'm working on. And you might find your berry, if the first time doing it, is quite large, then you can just have a shot at making smaller ones as you go until you're happy with them. You might find it easier to work with a smaller needle, but it just takes that little bit longer. Because I'm using a rough core wool here, it doesn't take very long. So I'm just now felting it into a ball shape. I'm actually just going to give it a little bit of a roll. I'm really pushing that down as I'm rolling it. And that should felt me a nice little ball there. And really, I could have felted that on before I stuck my holly on, which would have been better. So what I'm going to do is, you can either use a little bit of glue or just very gently go through one area of your berry. Here I'm using my small needle, but no, I'm going to use my medium needle. I'm going to felt that onto the leaf. So I found a bit where the needle's not hitting the leaf. This definitely would have been easier to do before fixing it on. So I'm going through needle, not into the wreath. You can really just feel it out. You don't want it hitting the wreath, but it's going into an area of the leaf, not the wreath, or even on the robin, so that it's at least stuck on. So that's one, and I'll speed this part up and I'll do another two, so we've got the 3 berries. Guys, I've made a nice little bit of holly and some white berries there. This is something you could add to. You could add some more bits and pieces, you could add some more leaves, you could add some more holly or berries. I like to add some cinnamon sticks onto mine, so I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do that. So I have a nice piece of cinnamon stick here and my usual very thin brown florist wire. I'm just going to wrap that a couple of times, or a few times, just for extra security around the middle of the cinnamon stick. Then I'm going to twist it a few times just so it's really nice and secure. Then I'm just going to attach that where I think it's going to look nice. So I've just splayed the 2 sides of the wire out like this. I'm going to pop it right under here, under my robin and leaves. This will give it a nice Christmassy scent to it. And now we've got a nice smelling Christmas wreath. I also happen to have some lovely star anise just to make it even extra scented. So I'm going to pop a little bit of glue just on that bit where the wire is here, right in the middle, that cinnamon stick. Pop on one of my best looking star anise. They do tend to break quite easily, but I've got a nice looking one there. I'm going to pop maybe one more down here. There we go. And I might even dot these. Here's a half of one, so I'm just going to pop that. I'm not going to waste it. Pop it over here at the side of my leaf. Another little idea is some acorns. So to make some acorns, you could use any natural colour. Here I've got a little bit of a mix left over that I used for the underneath of the robin. So I'm just going to felt that very, very quickly and roughly into a ball shape or an acorn shape. I'm just moving it around on my mat, picking it up and stabbing it. It's carded wool, so it's really carded batting, so it's really nice and easy to felt. Just using my medium needle just to quickly, very quickly get that down into a small acorn shape. see if that fits on one of my acorn caps. That one fits perfectly, so I'm going to secure it in with a little bit of my glue. Again, some hot glue works well. I tend to like to work wire free, so a bit of Bostik. Make sure you put the lid on quickly, and that's that done. So you can either use the florist wire or just a little bit of glue to attach that on wherever you think is going to look nice. So guys, I made 3 acorns by just using the caps there. So I did one in that natural wool like I showed you, and one in the core, and I wanted to make one more that was slightly different. So what I did was just blend some of the brown from that robin with some of the core wool, just by breaking it and snapping it like I showed you before. And in it goes, and it made a third really nice sort of natural colour. So we've got 3 neutrals there, and I'm just going to fix it onto my wreath with some of the Bostik glue that I have. So I have some nice natural twine here, or some hessian string. I've just put the ends together. It's in a length already. So right there in the middle of the wreath at the top, I'm going to pull that loop through this way, and I'm just going to pull the ends through this way. Tighten that up, and we've got something to hang it with. I'm going to tie it in a knot to secure it at the top. Then I'm going to pull it as long as I need, and I can just tie another knot in the top. Cut off any excess, and that's the hanger done. Okay, so I had a little bit of a last minute idea to add cones, so I thought some nice mini cones would do well, and I did order mini cones, but they came and they were still quite big. But I think we can still make it work and look really nice. So what I've done is take off the acorns there, because I'm just going to fix one of my cones here. Now you can either do that by just wrapping, quite simply, the wire around it, just for the sake of the tutorial and to keep it nice and quick. I'm going to stick on some Bostik glue, and I might just top that up later with some wire, and really just pushing that down in that area there, and that will dry soon enough. And then my acorns, which have kind of stuck together in the 3, which I do like, I'm going to then just put a little bit further up on the wreath here. That should be hidden underneath. Again, you can use your wire to extra secure that, either by going straight through the felted acorns or just around it. Eventually that will dry and give me a little bit of hold to start with, and I've got another cone here, so I'm just going to plop that over just under one of my leaves there, I think. So again, a bit of glue, and later I'll just use some of my wire there. So that's kind of balancing until that holds there, and then I'm just going to top it up with a little bit of wire. And on the top there, I'm just going to stick a couple more of those lovely star anise for some scent and some extra detail. If you have some more green felt, you can always use a little bit of that too to make some more leaves on it. If you have any red felt left over, you could maybe make some red berries, which I think would be quite nice as well. You can use the florist wire to make little stalks for them. So I'm just giving this, oh, it's very sticky stuff. So I'm very just quickly showing you just an idea. Some of these are broken, they're very easily broken, these things, but they still look lovely and give a lovely scent to them, along with the cinnamon. But to really finish it off for me, what I like to use is the tiniest little bit of biodegradable glitter. This is called wild glitter. So just a tiny bit over the felt, and most of it will stick on or cling on to something. It's such a fine glitter, and that just gives it a really nice glittery look about it. So I hope you enjoyed your tutorial today. If you'd like to check out some of my kits, you can find them on my website, www.littleblueartworks.com. I also have some tutorials which I'll be putting up over the next wee while, and I do have some free tutorials as well which you can watch on YouTube. If you do a search for Little Blue Artworks, you'll find me there, or there's a link on my website. Also welcome to come and join my Little Blue Felting group, which is on Facebook, where you can share all your makes and just share with other felters your felting journey, your crafting journey, and things you get up to. And also we like to share some tips and tricks on there too. So thanks again for watching and for joining me today, and please take care and have a very merry little Christmas.